Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, join us for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilperson Martin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here. Here. Here.
Here. Okay, and, all right, and we're doing like you said last week, last week. We kind of messed up the schedule a bit and scheduled this for June. So I thought I don't know if it'll play or not. I can play something really quick on there. I don't know if it'll actually play. But people can hear it. But if they can, great. If not, you can look it up because it's easy to find on YouTube. So it's just quick 3 minutes.
Wonderful.
I have no idea if it'll actually play though. That's the thing.
Oh.
Probably not.
All
I
right.
don't know where that's. Oops. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to get to play these, unfortunately.
You could turn on closed captioning.
Yeah, I don't know how to close caption. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's start over.
Silent movie. I was doing it.
It's only about 3 minutes. Anyway, yeah, sorry I couldn't figure out the sound, but on that one, but
Yes.
Thank you, Jason.
so. I
Thank you, and yes, next year we should, well, next year we won't.
don't know if we'll have the same issue next year, but we'll pay more attention to it for holidays next year because. I mean,
I promise to not schedule a hearing on Juneteenth.
so. Any case. We're gonna move on, but yeah, like I said, that video, it's by a historian, Heather Cox Richardson, and sounded pretty well known. And just the facts, man, kind of person, so. So, all right, so next up, we go to the continuation, or actually, the approved meeting minutes of May 8th, 15th, and the 22nd. So I'll move those.
Second?
Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, and then now we just move to the continuation of the public hearing on 2150 Dryden Road. Ray, did we get any more comments in on that?
No, we have not. And I just got an email from Marty Mosley, he's agent for the owner there, and they are trying to secure a new engineer to work on this, and so they are not prepared to advance the application. No new material has been submitted. So if there's no one there to comment, I would suggest we leave it open for 15 minutes just in case somebody walks in tonight, and then if not, close it at the end of that time tonight.
Good meetings here. Yeah, okay. We missed the 2150 Dryden Road application is the one that for the public hearing it's open.
Storage thing.
That's the next one. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, so we'll leave the 2150 Dryden Road application open for 15 minutes, and then, so right now I'll open up the next one. It's for 1400 Dryden Road. It's a special use permit amendment application for self-storage.
Yeah, Mr. Moore is operator of the Four Seasons Storage there, and he's looking to add a fourth building, expand the operation. The application was reviewed by the planning board last month, and they seem fairly favorable for it. There are some issues with getting enough water over there for firefighting. So that's the issue that the applicant's dealing with right now, to see if the project can really afford extending a hydrant to that vicinity. It's the size of the building that's driving it, so they have an option of either figuring out how to install a hydrant or reduce the size of the building. So I don't know if anyone is there at town hall to.
Yeah, I think there's one person who walked in to comment. Oh, we just needed a name though, so we need your name. Yeah, so you know what, let me grab a chair, because the way the people on. Yeah, yeah, so that way people can hear, because we have folks on Zoom.
This person talking.
Yeah, it's like some people, we have it so you can appear, like come remotely or in person, so.
So I live at 1384 Dryden Road, the Yellow House, and my son has the business Brewer's Tap Room. So where they're going to do this, I'm assuming is where they have these storage units.
Yes, it's,
And you want to put them in the back or in the front, where do you put them? So I don't mean to be, so I'm just like,
yeah, let me look.
what are we enough of those damn things?
Look at it, I gotta pull the site plan out.
Yeah, I'm not sure I heard very clearly, but in general, it's about a 12,000 square foot building. So similar in size to the third one that was installed just a few years ago. So it's filling in that the lot is under a purchase contract between the mobile home park and the third building that was most recently installed.
So it's going to be behind what you have existing there, is that correct?
That area in green, that's the new building.
Oh. Okay,
So it'll be behind so when you say it's behind what's already there,
over there.
yeah.
So then coming from, because I'm on a well. And are they gonna have a well and, no, they're gonna be on town water?
It's storage, so I don't think they have much water use.
There's no issue.
They have to have for those fire suppression. if
There's
there's
no
a fire.
residential use. You're
Oh, 'cause
concerned
you said
about,
you said about water before, and that's what got me concerned.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's no one living there, there are no. You know,
Well, they're gonna need-
no showers, no dishwashers.
yeah.
Um,
It's all good, but depending on the size, they might need to put in.
12 square feet is quite a lot. My building next door is 3,200, so it's 4 of those.
Mhm.
It's pretty big.
You have a commercial building next door, is that correct?
That's, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, they're right next door.
I just changed my name now. I got my ID. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so this is, yeah, so I mean, what Ray or the Berger, the planning director had said that,
And my son has talked to him about different things, not this specifically.
yeah, what he had said was for this, if they want to keep the size building they're proposing, they're gonna have to add a fire hydrant.
And where's that water gonna come from?
That would have to tap into, I think, the municipal water system. I don't know.
Yeah, so over at Knickerbocker would be the nearest line, so it would come across Pinckney Road.
So it would come across from where Knickerbocker?
Yeah, at least I think that would be, even though the NYSEG is closer, I assume it's more expensive to directional drill underneath Route 13, just permitting and everything. So I think the easier path is going to be from Knickerbocker's lot, where there's at least a half dozen hydrants. So the lines are there, and coming across from there, across Pinckney might be the less expensive option. But either way, it's quite an expense, and I'm not sure that this project is going to be able to afford that.
So it's coming from where that hydro plant thing used to be. Is that where the water is? That's where the,
Existing water is at the NYSEG lot, so directly across the street from this, or coming from the west at the Knickerbocker plant.
I don't know where that is.
That's the other side. So that's behind the,
The old Vanguard thing.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's quite far.
Yeah,
My concern is I'm on a well. And if they're gonna tap into anything like that, that could make me dry, and that would absolutely shut my son down, because he's tied into the same well.
Yeah, they would definitely not be supplying this with a well.
So you wouldn't be tapping in, you would be tapping into existing water pipes, is that correct?
Right, that's what they're exploring, whether to go to NYSEG or go to the Knickerbocker or the old Wilcox Press to
Okay.
tap into a public water line.
But it's only
Okay.
for fire suppression.
What?
Yeah.
It's a fire suppression because they have no water use otherwise.
Yeah, right, well, yeah, no, I realize that now, you know, all I could think of was not gonna be water, and Wiley's gonna have to close that business. All right, it makes sense. I think that's a really big building. They're talking 12,000 square feet. I mean, it's gonna take over, I mean, it's gonna be huge. The one they have now is not that big. I don't think, is it?
Yeah, if you look, on
There-
it's right.
it looks like the size of,
Roughly equivalent buildings, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, they've got two and then it's parallel to the third one.
It will bring in tax revenue, correct?
Yeah, it's a low footprint type industry. I know they're not the prettiest thing to look at, but they don't pollute. And they,
Right.
you know, they fill a need that people have. And this one's going to be back from the road, so it's not like you'll see another huge structure. It's
That's what I didn't know because when I saw the number, I'm like, it's right in my backyard.
I agree, they're too visual in this town right now, and I wish there was something we could do.
No, it isn't. On 13, I mean, it's just crazy.
So in future proposals, we're going to be asking them to do more screening and do more creative design work, so they're not such an eyesore.
I can't believe there's so much business for this,
Say that again?
that there's so much business for these
Yeah.
storage units. It seems crazy,
By the college,
huh?
must be the colleges.
It's everything.
We buy too much stuff.
We buy too much stuff. Absolutely, I would agree with that. Okay, so you've calmed me down. So, very good. So you don't need me now. I don't have to say anything. I can go have dinner.
Did you bring any beer?
Oh, I should have. With the beer.
He has really awesome fries.
And great fries. They're the best. They're better than Five Guys. And it's not because it's my son. I'm very
Just
picky.
because they're better. They're just better.
They're just better. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Better.
Thank you all for being patient with me. I just wanted to make sure I knew what was going on, you know.
Of course.
Have a good night. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you can talk amongst yourselves.
Don't put that
Thank you. They're really good, and they're good questions.
I mean, well,
They're good questions.
Yeah.
all right, have a good weekend.
Well, thanks, you too.
It's just a pity that.
Keep it back.
I'm old, so my mind isn't.
And I also have tater tots, by the way.
Oh,
which
do
are-
they?
Yes, which are
Meeting there.
better than fries. Especially. Huh? Of course.
Yeah, and their fries are truffle fries.
I should wear a Brewers shirt to just like make a NASCAR kind of thing, Brewers and then.
It's a pity that this prime real estate land is being used for this kind of stuff rather than housing.
Doesn't have water anyway, so.
Well,
Well,
I mean, every parcel is worth something in this town, that particular area, I don't know if it's.
it's a,
Right.
it's within the, well, it's within the model, development,
Yeah.
potential there, so.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a mobile home.
And if it doesn't have water now, doesn't mean that it couldn't have water in the future,
Right.
so.
Anyway,
Well, if we can get water, get something to help us run water out to down 13, well, we need to run sewer out that way too, but.
That's precisely what we are looking after the.
Yeah, because those, I guess with the housing, or the pro-housing community opens you up to the state money for the water sewer structure.
Right.
So.
Agreed.
Alright, so right, so for this one, we're not gonna be closing the thing tonight.
Okay,
Right, so applicant didn't show up, and I think that's probably a signal that they might have decided it's too expensive to go with a hydrant. So I've not received any communication from them over the last couple of weeks, even though I've emailed them.
Alright, well, we may as well leave it open until next month, just to see.
Okay, yep. That makes sense.
And if they don't wanna go forward with it, you'll just let us know, and we'll just take it off the agenda.
Yep.
Okay,
Sounds good.
so. Alright, so I'm just gonna open up the one, because the 2150, get another couple minutes, I think. So that's a hearing for the community development block grant applications. This is so that we can apply for funds for the sewer line that would go towards the Hanshaw Village mobile home park. So let me find that stuff.
Yeah, you could put up the notice of hearing, because that
Yeah,
explains the process here.
yep,
The Community Development Block Grant Program is, available for a variety of infrastructure needs for community. So part of the purpose of this hearing is to see if other members of the community have ideas that we haven't fleshed out before. The present idea that we have is to extend the sewer out to Hanshaw Village Mobile Home Park. So that would be the current application that's in the works. But part of the purpose is to get feedback either on that application or on other ideas for alternative plans, alternative applications.
right, and then we have to designate you as, well, we have a resolution to designate you as a certifying officer.
Yeah,
So to carry out the application, there's a whole bunch of different submittals and forms. So this would make me the certifying officer for for that process. If this looks familiar, we did most of this process back in 2023 before just at the last minute Cook Properties abandoned the application. So we did a lot of the build up to that CFA application at that time. So there were a lot of these resolutions each month to take care of various pieces of the process.
Other than putting that notice up in this resolution, is there anything else we have to do for this? Cause I didn't see any other.
No, we've made the various things on that checklist of hearing requirements. So just keeping this open for 15 minutes.
Yep. Okay, well, the first thing, I guess we'll keep this open. But for the 2150 Dryden Road, we're gonna close that public hearing. But we're not acting on that one yet, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Right. And for 1400, we'll keep it open. We have another like 10. Another 10 minutes.
So we close the hearing.
That's the one we leave. Oh, actually, yeah, we're leaving that one open. So sorry.
Just to clarify, 2150, we're closing the hearing, but we're not acting. So that means we're gonna act next.
We
month.
have,
So can we continue to receive information after I close the hearing?
Yeah.
yeah, right. Because you said we're supposed to get information still.
Yeah, so 2150, the main issue there is if they can make that driveway work as a fire access road. It requires quite an upgrade. So that's probably why they're switching engineers, trying to figure out that problem. Maybe they'll submit a site plan that would work and we could approve it next month, but I could also see it, kind of going dormant and back in the works to solve this issue for a couple of months. So I don't know if you feel like you want to have a hearing left open for a couple of months or whether we would, we've had it open for 2 months now. So I think if anyone wanted to raise an issue, they would have come at this point.
But that just means the public comment time is open. We close the public comment, but we still internally can approve it at another meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I would suggest. If they solve that driveway issue and stuff, then they would have enough material in their site plan for us to approve.
yeah, okay.
But then did we reopen it for that meeting though?
Well, that's the thing. It's a matter of if the changes are substantive. I mean, it's all the road, the alignment is there. It's just a matter of getting a construction profile that actually is going to work as a fire access road. So it's a detail that's yet to be filled in, but really it doesn't change the site plan. Everything is already kind of exposed and out there for comment.
So it won't change public comment.
Yeah, what does the law say actually? So,
That you have to make a decision.
yeah, I think it's within 60 days once we close it.
So we should leave it open.
Yeah, we should leave it open then.
Or just have.
Yeah. Well, if we leave it open, people can keep. Well, we'll just leave it open. We're not gonna close it today.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Well, we're gonna put it on the agenda until we actually have something or not.
Okay. That sounds good. And I'll try and push them to get their engineer on board and solve this or not.
Yeah, because I don't know, what's the limit for keeping something open, but not on an agenda?
Yeah, I'm not aware. I've never been faced with that before. I mean, I can inquire of Nate to have an answer for next meeting.
Yeah, well. I mean, they'll just be listed as continuations, but I'm not gonna give them a time, I guess.
Yeah.
Because if they're not ready next month, then. There's nothing to do. Same thing with 1400.
I got a question though about
Yeah.
for Ray.
Yep.
And I should know the answer to this, so, why are dry hydrants not an option? Is that something that there's a reason why it's not, or is it just that we don't have that in our zoning like yet?
Well, I know dry hydrants are in use. We do have some in along Turkey Hill Road there. But I don't think they are, I don't think they meet the New York State code. So we have them, we use them because they aid any water supply source will aid the effort. But it doesn't meet New York State code. So this would have to be a pressurized regular hydrant.
Okay.
All right.
So is this one also one we have to keep open because they didn't come because they're.
Well, they have to figure out if they're gonna do the building, yeah.
So we also have to leave this one open, same reason? Okay.
Yeah, we'll just leave it open till. At least till next month. Alright, well, we'll just move to the. I guess his first resolution about. The
Support for
support for a town driving application for the Tompkins County Housing Affordability and Supportive Infrastructure Grant Program.
It's basically is to send application to hire a consultant to take a look into this 100 acres undeveloped land.
Oh, yeah.
What they call it, Leonardo Parson, and the consultant will help us to more or less respond to a number of questions that we have put in our application that I hope you all have the chance to read.
Yeah.
But I can read, so one of the things is give us a description of the feature of the land and evaluate condition to construction. What are the highest and best uses of the 100 acres? How many homes and the location? The location will be, successful in the housing market. What type of units and what price points? Meaning, what is the type of housing we want to see in? What commercial uses and services can be put in that side as well, including TCAT, maybe park and ride, childcare centers or whatever, look for external funding for some of the part of the project. And using the existing infrastructure study, that estimated cost of bringing water into the site by extending the water district that is already available, not very far from there. So those are some of the questions that we want that study to do, and that's basically what is that? It's a way of actively and actively, I guess, in a filming way to develop housing in the nodal point that is around NYSEG, the extension of NYSEG. That's all what we want to do at the moment.
So one thing I didn't absorb, is this a match grant or is it? We would get 100% for the.
We will get $10,000, and I think there is $1,000 that the town will have to.
Just 1,000?
Yes.
Okay.
The resolution says we would allocate 1,000 in
Yeah.
town funds to provide a match.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we get 10 grand in exchange for one, so it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
But this assumes that the NYSEG area would be sold at a level,
Well, the owner is actually very, supportive of looking into some kind of development already. for watering.
This is that 100-acre parcel?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that was Leonardo.
This is
I know the parcel, yeah, and previously it had been seen as overpriced and had been for sale for some time.
We had a conversation initially with INHS. And they, of course, they be sort of, the scope of the construction will be too big for them. But they will be interested in pursuing that perhaps with, another collaborative agency or developer. So I know we have already, both sides, so with some.
Okay.
Anyone else? I mean, I guess we're basically doing the analysis for some other entity to look at this and develop.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no
So we're,
government role in this, and we would basically say, hey, look at this great.
Yeah, look at this,
Somebody come
great-
build here.
these are the things that can be built, and there is a good, it's a good deal.
I've already done the site analysis and water costs, scopes and all of that to make it more
Yeah.
feasibility.
I guess it'll update what was done a couple of years ago.
Right.
Cause we partnered with the county on a study just for the water sewer, but it was like 5-6 years ago, I think. Where we put
Yeah,
it,
Jason, TG Miller is gonna freshen up the figures on that, and that will provide the infrastructure, sewer and water component of this. So this grant would cover other aspects of the project. Doing some market feasibility analysis and other, concept plans for the lot. So the infrastructure piece was already done by TG Miller.
okay. All right, well, yeah, I mean, so you moved it?
I'll do it, yeah.
I'll second it.
Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
Yes,
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 Yes, all right, cool. All right, so now we'll go back.
Thank you.
and- Yep. We're gonna go back and close the public hearing for the community development block grant. Application. And move the resolution. To designate Ray Berger as the certifying officer.
I'll second that.
Councilperson Martin.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. And then. The next thing we have is this, this resolution to adopt a Vision Zero policy.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Was that part by Ray?
Oh, this is the one, sorry, yeah, the authorizing, yeah, is it? There's another resolution, sorry, for the CDBG.
I don't think so.
To authorize me to apply for and receive funding under the grant program?
I think we did that last month, or at least last Thursday. Yeah, I had that checked off already.
Yeah, because this should, yeah, it's.
The laws, will be the, which one will you know?
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
That one's built.
Oh, yes. No, sorry, okay, we don't need that one.
Something that went with this one.
So now they're gonna move up to this zero vision. Policy.
So I read this, but who's bringing this to us?
This was an effort about a year ago. We went together with 12 other municipalities in the county and got a grant. It was $700,000, I believe, for developing safety action plans. So the Safe Streets for All program was funded for, we could get the grants for developing the safety action plans. And then there's $1 billion per year in infrastructure money that we can now apply for. But one of the prerequisites is to have a safety action plan. So this was a cooperative effort. It was led by the city of Ithaca. And now they've got this joint safety action plan, and part of getting the entrance into the program is to adopt a Vision Zero, which just means we're aiming for 0 fatalities on our roads.
So so bear with me, so if we pass this, and I read it and it's fantastic, it's awesome stuff. But if we pass it and then we don't get grant money for it, are we committed to spend money on? Are there things that we are committing to spend money on? Regardless of whether we get grants approved?
No, there's nothing committing funding by this. That's why it's a seeker type 2 action, because this simply is a policy statement. It's not
Well, it's not-
proposing a action
Be
a
limits
project.
or signage or there's nothing in it.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
like
that.
that stakes in here.
Correct. It is simply identifying areas where we can improve the safety of our road network, and we can use those projects that are identified to go after funding.
Okay.
But we're not committing to doing any of those projects that are talked about in the plan.
And as a side note, does the grant Vision Zero program, recommendations that may be useful for our zoning reviews as far as ways to ensure future build is safer?
Really, a lot of the actions are pinned to the road network and trail network, pedestrian, bike trails, everything that moves people around. So, yeah, we can look for some guidance there towards the zoning, but it's really a fairly distinct, prescriptive to the road network.
Okay.
All right, so, who do we get to credit with the writing of this?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Well,
It's a mess.
I can honestly say not me. Cambridge Systematics did the contract. They put this template together.
So
This was put together last fall, so they looked at the guidelines for the program itself, this Safe Streets for All program, and they tried to make the resolution, I think, check as many boxes for us to go after funding under the Safe Streets for All program. So that's I think the history behind a lot of the statements. Now, how well the statements are crafted, yeah, that's certainly up for debate.
Yeah, I worry that this stuff is accurate. I mean, when I see things written so sloppily, do we know that 8 people in the town were killed by traffic accident?
That is a statistic that the ITCTC provided. So that is a local Tompkins County source.
But we've had more recent traffic deaths.
Yeah, but that was just in that window. The,
Well, I get that, but why not have more recent numbers?
Yeah, it's a time period that we could have accurate data. So I guess there was not audited, the more recent data sets were not audited as well.
All right, so I don't know, it's the 7th whereas nationwide pedestrians made 3% of the total number of people injured in crashes, and pedal cyclists made 1.85 average of the total number of people injured in crashes, 2016 to 1019. I can't vote for that.
we need to make,
It's supposed to be through 2019. That's
Yeah,
Can we just cut that, whereas it's
sure. It's not, we don't need it in there.
1.85%. I mean, average. That's just really poorly worded and would fail my writing class. Whereas speed is recognized as a major determining factor of survival in a crash. So does that mean the faster you go, the better, or the slower?
the slower,
Well,
there's lots of stuff.
I say we strike that one too, because that's nonsensical.
Yeah, because it talks about speed in the next whereas.
Whereas the town of Dryden is working toward reducing vehicle speeds because the likelihood of a pedestrian surviving a crash is 10%. If hit by a vehicle moving 40 miles an hour.
Goes down from there.
We gotta cut that one too. That's just nonsense. Why 40 miles an hour?
I think it's just the threshold number. It gets worse as you increase speed, but 40 and above, your survival rate is,
People are asking.
I don't know if I said, we have to cut that one. Unless,
The one above it too?
yeah, so we want to cut the whereas speed is right back.
Yeah. Right, you raise it.
Well, I'm doing a markup here too.
All
Alright, whereas children, adults, people of color, people with disabilities, people who are unhoused, people with low income face significantly disproportionate risk of traffic injuries.
But where is that come from?
You where and what is significantly disproportionate? I mean. I'd like a number.
There's our stats out there, they're just clearly not.
Well, I'm sure there's stats out there. I don't doubt that
Yeah.
there's a disproportionate impact, but I just don't like vague statements like that. I mean, we should be,
Get rid of those two. Both of them, and then the third one's good.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to
Yeah,
rewrite
email
it?
it.
Does this have to be passed this month?
they're attempting to get the final draft, including all the 12 resolutions, as an appendix. So they're targeting July to get the final draft out. So that's why most of the jurisdictions are doing it this month. City of Ithaca and Town of Ithaca, I think, have already passed it earlier in June.
don't get me wrong, I've studied Vision Zero, I know about this, I've had some of my students research this, and it's worked really well in bigger communities, the bigger cities. But I just think if we're gonna sign on to something, we gotta have this worded better. I mean, there's no rule that says we have to adopt this verbatim, is there?
Correct. The important statements are in the resolved that you're adopting Vision Zero and you're adopting the plan, the Joint Safety Action Plan. Those are the two action items that are
Those are the things.
impactful.
Let's just shorten it to that and cut out all this fluff.
Cause that's just in the Vision Zero anyway,
Mhm.
so why is, there's no real benefit to us restating it.
I mean, I like that last whereas on the page, making streets safer for all people using all modes of transportation. That's
Yeah.
on message.
Well, not all of them.
That's the goal of eliminating traffic deaths.
Doesn't address the huge populations of Amish in some places.
Right.
Well, it's all modes of transportation, so horse and buggy should count.
So I'm
Well,
saying,
here's the thing that gets me, we already have that goal. I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but I have a goal of eliminating all traffic deaths. This is not a new thing.
But if we don't do this, then we can't apply for the grant money.
Right, yeah, it's just kind of silly in some ways.
welcome to the party.
Sit wherever you can find a seat.
So can you just, are you marking those things for elimination and we'll keep?
I mean, I would say just, if you're gonna keep whereases, keep the last one.
Last one on page one,
No safety.
The last one on page one, and then the stuff below it is fine.
looks good.
Keep the first one,
We can go with GMC, it's no problem.
keep the first, second, third,
We're talking about the whereas, other.
yeah.
Town of Dryden continues its commitment to eliminating traffic deaths. I mean, I think all the stuff that we've done so far, and think of the crossings that we've had to belabor to get done for the rail trail. And the speed reductions that we've done and the lighting that we've done.
Mhm.
If we change it, can we change it and say deaths and injuries?
Yeah. But I, I don't mind, I just think. We wanna do this by 2040, we wanna do this, we wanna eliminate traffic deaths tomorrow, I mean. I don't know, am I being too literal, too crazy?
Yes,
on
you
that?
are.
Okay.
Looks like other cities have taken out a lot of that too, on their resolution.
Oh, for that.
So I'll just say keep the first five,
Yeah.
knock out 6, keep number 7, and then. Knock out the rest and then keep the last one on page 1, and then the ones that are on page 2.
In the
And then the 2,
Vision Zero.
and to the 2 resolves
We don't have to do anything.
that we adopt, the 2 ones that say we had. Well, the number 1, number 3 for the resolves,
Okay,
because the other one, like traffic,
we don't have any enforcement.
right?
And we adopt the plan.
Yeah.
28 megabyte plan. Those of us on fixed wireless, that took a while to download. Get off my yard.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just, I guess, quickly scroll through. So if I've red line as well, they're blue line, I don't know why it's blue on this thing, but anyway.
I mean, if I was really gonna go ahead, I'd wanna include some transportation demand management in all this as well, but that's not what we're trying to do here tonight, so
No, it's just.
I'd want something about bike lanes.
that would be your transportation demand management, yeah.
Alright. Well, the only bike lanes that would work is if we went full on, rural Germany style bike lanes,
Be good with that.
which are not on the road.
Cool. We have Audubon too.
I would love to have them on.
That would not move us towards the 0 deaths. Opposition.
Some reduction, citizen.
The thing about the Autobahn is it's probably safer than any of the roads here. Cause they actually Dryden roads are maintained, but if you had an Autobahn in Ithaca. You'd just be bouncing all over the place.
There's still humans driving the cars. So.
Yeah, but they're better drivers over there. So people just have to,
they
get
are
better.
better.
Huh?
Are we doing this or?
Just remember, your all the lane assist doesn't mean the car drives for you.
Alright, I think we're good.
Alright, so I move that
Second.
with the changes and I'll send it to Bambi. Yeah, I'll send it to you right now.
We like the sentiment on this, Ray, don't get us wrong. Vision Zero, their goal is solid.
Vision is 0. All right.
We've had too many tragedies in this town, I just wish it was more accurate the way this was worded.
Understood.
So, are we voting or what?
Yes.
Dan Lamb,
Councilperson Vargas.
Yes.
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 Yes. I just have to figure out where to save it.
Town legal representation, we needed it. Thought we just did this like last month.
All right, Dave, I guess you're up. Let's move since you're here.
And thank you for sending your report in
Yeah.
advance. That was great.
You're welcome.
Do you need, you want me to, put it up?
Yeah, can you share this report? Good evening.
Good evening.
It was a beautiful evening, but it's no more sun outside, you see.
It's gonna start to thunderstorm.
I think it's starting. So there was an eventful month, as Jason brings up the deck. We hit our 400th customer in the month of May. Yeah, it's a huge achievement. 1 year ago, we had 40 customers. And 2 years ago, I started with helping in marketing. In June of 2023, we had 6 customers. So pretty substantial growth over the last 12 months. The second slide has the overview, which I can't read. It's very blurry on that screen. Can I grab my computer?
Go to town.
You can put the light out.
Just ask everyone to sit patiently behind you.
Yeah.
You're blocking the view.
So we have, this says we have 42 customers. We had inbound requests in the month of May, definitely a lot fewer than we had back in January when we sent out the mailer with all the tax bills. That has been our most impactful marketing activity to date. This, not just this year, but since we started, there was a huge increase. The challenge is that as I talk to people in person, they're like, "Oh, I got a letter that says Trident Fibers here." I'm like, we only send postcards to people who are in the green zone, but every single person who is a taxpayer received the letter. So it was good we had a lot of people sign up, but we're not able to service many of those people. Right now, there are 1,400 people signed up. About 200 of those are people who have signed up more than once. So the remaining 1,200, 1,200 are customers, and the other 800 or so will be customers once we build out to their properties.
Usually you come to our house faster if we repeatedly apply.
I have not seen that work.
How many times have you applied?
So infrastructure program update. We applied for the New York State Connect All Office Municipal Infrastructure Program last March. We negotiated with the state in April and May. In June, they granted us $8.9 million on a $9.9 million project. The next phase was to construct the network across all underserved homes in town of Dryden and town of Caroline. And since probably October, we've been negotiating with the state on a grant disbursement agreement. This is the document that says, here's what we're going to build, when we're going to build it, and how much it's going to cost. During that negotiation, we changed primary engineering partners back in February from Hunt Engineering to Vantage Point. When Vantage looked at the original budget, they realized a few things. One is that the per mile cost was off substantially. And the was off in that if we had built to the plan from the original proposal, we would come up about $2.5 million short before we finished. We made this clear to New York State, and they wanted to hear what we were going to say. And we have increased our budget from a $8.9 million grant and a $9.9 million budget to a $12.6 million project.
Congratulations.
So that was easy by asking for more money.
But they gave it to you.
They have not yet given it, but they have given us good signs this week that they are going to give it to us. Now, we learned 2 other things this week. One is that we've been building to reach the unserved and underserved addresses in town of Dryden prior to the award of this grant last June. We've been spending money to do that. We also applied for this with a 10% matching, a liquid match, which meant our assumption was the money invested in the network to reach the unserved and underserved in town of Dryden prior to June 14th over in this grant would count for that liquid match. This week, the bill said that it didn't count. We had to only use new spending to contribute to the local match.
Yeah.
So that was a brand new message to us. We're obviously not getting paid anything to reach the addresses that if we had not applied, another ISP could have received funding to do the work that we had already done. But they're not going to pay us for that. We're okay with that, because we learned something else, and that is that this program has no local match requirement.
I'm confused now.
We were confused, we being Amanda, from the accounting finance department, as well as Brad Penny, our lead engineer. We looked over the application. Matt Killis to join us on our accounting team. We led through the entire proposal, the GDA, the grant. Nothing requires any local match.
MIP. The MIP program.
What's that?
There's in the MIP program, is that right?
There's no local match in the MIP program required. We believe two things happened. One is Caroline only received about $500,000 in granted money that we're going to put to this project to reach the unserved and underserved in Caroline. So we load that into our budget. And then since they were contributing, we thought we should contribute too, even though there was no requirement to that. So we came up with about $1 million contribution on the $10 million program, which apparently we do not need to know. We do not need to do. The actual amount in the original proposal was $906,000 of matching. $906,000. So if you get 906, you have that 8.9 million from the state, and that's how we get this $9.9 million project, which is now increased to 12.6 million. With the increase up until Tuesday this week, we believe that we were required to do a 10% local match. So we said of the $2.6 million increase, we put in 260,000, and went to the state for 2.3 million, which they were ready to give us on Tuesday. When they told us we could not use prior to June 15th, 2024 expenses as part of the Dryden local match. It also said that they didn't have to be any local match, but then they said it would be frowned upon by Empire State Development, the backers of this project, for us to lower our local match anything lower than the original $906,000. So that kind of got us to little Tuesday night. We worked the budget, and our new request is to increase to about 2.6 million to actually have enough money to reach everything that we wanted to reach earlier. That was just unplanned or under budgeted. In this increase, we did not have a local match contribution in this revised request that we sent to New York yesterday. Yeah, yesterday afternoon. Does any of that make sense? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, it does.
So we're gonna let them frown upon us.
Yes.
So we're $6,000, which is now a minimum local match, because we said we would do that last June. We agreed. That is what got approved by Empire State Development last September for the next stage of the process. But we will not be increasing that local match as a flat 10% of project going forward.
That's fantastic.
So it's about
I've agreed to this.
I'm not into it. As of the Tuesday, the two leads on the project were ready to make a recommendation with a $2.3 million increase to the director of the program. And they suspected that would be approved probably within 24 hours. But having found out that all of the spending that we did leading up to June of last year, which was equal to what Dryden was going to put in as a local match, and none of that counted. We had to use other funds or other spending post June. We said, let's ask for additional funding to fulfill this additional increase, knowing that we're going to have to put in this local match as fresh money, not as money we'd already spent prior to the grant announcement, to reach the homes that are unserved or underserved by this list of homes. We know it's possible. Right now it's about $260,000 already for them to say yes to that additional increase. Even if they said no to that, we still think there was the additional 2.3 million. We'll just have to figure out the local match contribution between Caroline and Dryden if we have to increase beyond the 906,000.
What's your spidey sense on how long it'll take for them to make the determination?
Which they'll next week.
Oh.
Still planning the schedule, the timeline, what we expect to get done this year, next spring, next summer, next fall. We've done a lot of work in the last 30 days between Amanda and Matt on the finance side, Carmen, Ray, Carlos, Braden on the Vantage side, as well as Jason and Dan on everything else around the project for the two towns. So we're really close.
Can our personnel costs be part of the match now?
Not in this project. We asked for that. They said no. There's plenty of stuff money on where it's going to be a big impact. And it's going to go fast. Once it starts, our expectation right now is to break ground in Caroline in October. That means all the permits are on their way. The electrical make ready has happened, which means the telephone poles that we're going to be using have had their connections moved up or away from other strands of refinement. Or in some cases, they replace poles. All of that should be good to go, so we can start doing construction in Caroline in October. And I believe we'll start doing expanded construction in Dryden in July or August. The presentation's gone.
I got it. I was figuring, give you a little FaceTime.
Thanks. So here's the budget. Go back one slide. Get it right. So as I put on there, this was as of June 1st, but I've updated it this week. We should have the grant supposed to be done within 30 days, so by July 15th. I think we're going to have a decision by the end of the month. And then the finalized credit disbursement agreement. As soon as we get the agreement signed, the next day we'll submit our first reimbursement request. Any questions on MIP? All this moving around of resources and funding. So it should be, it should deserve its own second wave of press conference or media to know that this project that was $8.9 million funded on a $10 million project is now a $12.6 million project, of which basically 11.7 million will be funded by the state.
So you should time that when you want to start getting a new wave of people applying.
Yes, from August or September.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is the miscalculation or the misestimation of this project has been recognized and covered by the state, basically, which is a huge burden off us.
Well, GLS people on the project, they have engineers in the project, they have specialists on auditing, they have finance people on the project to look at everything we're doing, to understand and to make sure that what we have in line across many different categories are aligned with what other projects similar to ours, because there's 15 other MIP recipients that were not crazy above or below the average cost per mile or the average cost per install. And now we're much more in line with other projects.
They will.
We were under because it was the first time this project had requested so much money. We had never received anything more than $1 million at one time. So we go from there to a $9 million request. There's a lot of things that might be over the horizon you might not be able to see or understand when you're going that much bigger on a request.
And we will be getting a solid repository of their GIS maps and all their documents that they're putting together, right?
Yeah. So very positive. It's been a ton of work for Amanda, but the work will not end when we have the grant disbursement agreement, because the next stage will be gathering up every single invoice and every payment that this town board has authorized to send canceled checks digitally to New York State, so they can review every single expense and then write us a check or send us a wire for the first reimbursement. It'll be over $1.5 million coming back. Soon after that, there'll be even bigger reimbursements as we do a lot more construction the second half of this year and a ton of construction next year. We're now able to serve 1,800 plus parcels, which is now over 30% of the town. We added in, I think the next slide might have some of the details about where we have added service. Yeah, it's 75 bed houses. So between Turkey Hill Road and the gas station HEP on Utility Drive, we can now service both sides of Route 366 in that stretch, as well as West Main Street and Spring House and the Village of Dryden, as well as Scenic Way and Chelsea Circle and Yellow Water Road between Route 13 and the whole water district, as well as Bear Circle. So that finishes the Yellow Barn area. There's a few parcels that have yet to be updated on the map. Once those are updated, we'll do our marketing push to let everyone in those neighborhoods know via email and Facebook, Instagram, next door. As it is, when we add those 75 parcels, I think 14 had already signed up before we even turned those on. So we just reached out to them through scheduling, and some were scheduled the same day we activated those. I mentioned this before, we sent a proposal for to be the provider for an AHS project in Varna. It's 53 units. We've been doing a lot of back and forth with them, talking about solving the problem with tenants, which is access to, I'll say, communication systems versus trying to be prescriptive ahead of time and saying they need access to coaxial cable, which there's only one provider in town that offers that. We believe that our service offers offers what they need, which is communication systems as a resident of a IHS apartment in 2025. For us, it means broadband fiber optic service. For other providers, it might mean coaxial cable to the individual apartments. The end goal is that they have some kind of communications network, broadband internet, and communications like TV. We believe that we can service those apartments with everything they would need through our platform. And IHS is just working through to figure out if their primary grant provider will allow to solve the problem for the tenants, which is getting access to communication systems via whatever service, or if they're required to solve the not the how, which is to say it has to be coax because that's what they're funding, because that's what they've always funded, versus saying we need to provide local TV and broadband internet.
Right.
So it's a big shift. We think this will be useful for other public private partnerships and other projects, particularly in housing, where it's just been standard to say we're building, we need to have coax because cable is what we need. That's what apartments need. That's very prescriptive of a need. It's not looking at the actual need, which is we need to provide a pipe to get to the internet or a pipe to get communications, local TV. So by having them start to change this, the goal is that everyone else in the region, especially in Dryden Caroline, where we operate, they will stop thinking of this as housing projects need coax cable. They don't. What they need is housing projects need communication systems to provide service to individual apartments.
Paradigm shift.
That's the business we're in this case. I don't know what would happen then. They had a plan to make a decision by August 1st. It's been pretty quiet the last 10 days. I've asked them for some information. They asked some questions, and we've sent questions and answers back to them. They've been really appreciative of the free consulting we're doing with our different partners to give them answers. We're estimating groundbreaking in town Caroline on October 1st. We'll probably do it at the Caroline Town Hall, where we'll have a central office, or the central office we have at the DPW right down the street. So there will be a building there where they have servers and the internet plugged into that building. So that'll be sometime in October. We will then invite all of the local media, but also the local dignitaries, including town boards from both towns, as we are expanding this town of Dryden fiber project into Caroline. That includes inviting all that to the governor's office sometime in October. We'll start planning that in August.
So do the two towns then back each other up if you had, say, a fire in that building? You would, if you're gonna put your servers and everything in there, there's no issue There's a backup system, correct?
This is just a switching building where the internet comes in, it connects to our entire network. If that building goes offline, the network will still connect all around it.
Cause it's got the, okay.
Yeah.
I'm techie enough to understand that. I just wanted to make sure I heard it right.
Yeah, the Caroline network is a continuation extension of our network.
Right.
And then it says we will be participating in Drive Day Parade, which we did last weekend. Okay, next slide.
Don't look so happy,
What are
Jason.
those guys?
So that's our June 14th, we have photos in the Drive Day Parade. We're with Dan's car, which is outside, if you haven't seen it. Syracuse Utilities had a truck, as well as Clary Connect had one of their vans. I believe we had over 200 postcards to the first half of the parade route where they out. I estimate probably 2,000 people, some families, some kids. Over 200 other pieces of candy between what we had and what the partners had. There were truck magnets, we had t-shirts, we had a relevant brand impression for the service, and probably a handful, maybe a half a dozen or 10 inbound requests by either an online form for requesting service or just information since Saturday morning, including one. The parade started at 9:30. We started like at 9:45, handing out postcards. And I think at 9:55, we had our first inbound request from someone who lives in the village area, who I believe it has to be coming back to us being in the parade.
Yeah, they were there on their phone, probably
Yeah.
just doing it.
There were QR codes, so it would make it easy for them to sign up.
It's good.
So one more slide.
All right.
Yeah, there's Dan's card.
There you go.
People were cheering. That was something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was nice.
All right. I have a few things just for the record.
Oh, nice. Are they signed by you?
Yeah. The one for the vault has our names on it, so in 100 years, they'll say, what is this Dairy Day Parade? What is Trident Fiber with these people?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll hang in the hallway away in my office.
Yeah.
All right, so other items. We are in the town of Groton by way of going to McLean to reach some of the houses in that corner of town. We had to basically build the network up through McLean and then back into Dryden. We're also building, we have some fiber Peru and from 38 East to, I think, all the way to West Malloryville. And to Ed Hill Road. So there's fiber on the road there. There will be fiber on Clarendon Road, which borders Caroline and Danby. By the time that we are done with MIP, we will run fiber up Sapsucker Road from Hanshaw all the way to, actually all the way to the lab of ornithology, including a residence house that's right there, one parcel below the lab. We have requests on Sims Hill Road, where it leaves town of Dryden. And we have a lot of requests. People who have Dryden mailing addresses that are not in the town of Dryden, east of here, toward Virgil. There's a lot of Dryden mailing addresses. And we're not going to go beyond what we need to build to service the people in town of Dryden. But where we are providing, where we could provide service, we want to give those towns notifications as we're building this, and we will be able to offer it to the residents as long as they are, doesn't require us to build any additional infrastructure beyond a drop cable from the fiber in the town of Dryden or along the property, the town line to that person's home. So I sent around a letter a couple of days ago to officially notify the neighboring towns of our work. Let them know we could provide service to these border roads. I have only identified the towns that border Dryden, with the exception of Caroline. So that's Ithaca, Lansing, Groton, Cortlandville, Virgil, and Richford. I'll ask the town of Caroline Town Board to do a similar letter if they want to go east and south to Berkshire and Candor and Danby. In Taylor County, yeah.
Yeah, there's some sections you're gonna have to.
So I think you have a copy of the letter, and the request is to authorize Jason to send that to the 6 towns
Yeah.
bordering.
Move that.
A second.
Councilperson Martin Singleton.
Yes.
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 Great, that was the easy one. The second one is we have a unique parcel, we have a lot of unique parcels in town, but we have one where the only way to reach this parcel that we have put in the green zone is by using a telephone pole, utility pole that is behind another resident's house. And then from there, it goes to another road where we do have fiber. So it's where there are 2 roads that near each other. One road has no utility poles on the road. The only way they get service is by a pole that is across the street from their house in their neighbor's backyard, and then jumps over to a road that's close, but not the road they live on.
But they don't have right of way. Seems very odd.
There was an easement because the order of operations when they built these houses was how do we make the least amount of infrastructure? So at that time, NYSEG said, we'll just run across these yards, or in one case, a cornfield to reach these houses instead of coming right down the road. We heard from the neighbor that the land nearby this road was swampy, and instead of taking the most direct path, which would have went through a swamp, they took a very indirect path that went through her yard and another farm, which was a lot more of a dry path to get to these houses. What that led to is our understanding, and this is actually from our previous engineering firm, that we could provide service by using the same utility poles to this person's backyard. The customer who wanted the service is this one that's kind of on this little island where they have to go through this other neighbor's yard. We dispatched the installation crew. They started doing the install on that person's pole in their backyard, and they said, "Full stop. You can't be on this pole unless you have permission." So we stopped. In December, we started having a conversation with that landowner. I went back and forth a little bit. Nathan and I talked about this quite a bit, the town attorney. And about a month ago, I talked to the resident, the owner of this land. And about 3 weeks ago, I went on site with Clarity Connect, our install company, to talk about where the fiber would go through their property. And they explained the reason why they wanted to limit our access to their property. I'm trying to keep the name, the property location anonymous because it's just an individual who was concerned about something that happened to them in the past. There was a NYSEG tree clearing project that dropped limbs into the swale behind their house that filled it up and blocked the swale. And then it rained and that swale overflowed and flooded the person's house. They ended up, I believe, suing NYSEG and getting some compensation and having a lot more control over that utility pole in their yard. And they said they wanted the same level of control. They liked their neighbor. They're happy to have their neighbor have Trident fiber. But in order for us to use the pole, they've added these stipulations to our standard agreement. We do not want to make these standard for every agreement, but in order to serve this one customer, we'd have to amend this one agreement for this property owner so we can use the pole in their backyard. The landowner that would go through their yard has agreed to these. The town attorney has recommended that before we offer these amendments and send this out, that the town board and the public broadband committee, which meets tomorrow, has a chance to review this and say, we're okay with this one-time case of doing this. We don't want to make this a thing that we modify all the time. The burden is on us to adjust some of our processes around servicing this amendment. And I'll talk about this in a minute. Any questions so far about why we have to do this?
No, but you said in the letter that it's possible that NYSEG is gonna have to move the pole in a couple of years, so this would be a temporary agreement anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So the first thing I said was no extra poles. We wouldn't be doing any extra poles, so we were okay with agreeing that there would not be any extra poles placed on their property. If the neighbor terminates the Trident fiber service, we cannot keep the fiber on their pole. So if we think of it as neighbor one, neighbor two, neighbor one is the one that we're going through, neighbor two is the customer. They like neighbor two, but if neighbor two sells their house or decides they don't want Trident fiber, they don't want to continue to have this wire go through their yard. And I kind of agree. The pole is situated between their house and their pool. And it's high, and the fiber, as well as the NYSEG line, is pretty high. But it's like a line between their house and their pool, like in their backyard. And they're basically okay with us having one of our drop cables running this run. But they don't want to have it because they like the neighbor. They don't want to have it there if that neighbor decides they don't want Triton fiber, or if another neighbor approves it. We think that neighbor will stay there a long time and be a happy customer for a long time. So it's worth the investment to basically provide this service. The third item, if NYSEG moves the service, moves to another pathway and provides service to these homes through another pathway, which would be down the road instead of through the backyard, we would be, and that to us, that makes sense. If we want to do any management of that fiber, we have to give them 48 hours notice in advance. That's the only one that would be potentially an operational challenge, that if there was a tree branch on the fiber and it was disrupting the service to house number, the second house, that we would need to help them without giving 48-hour notice before. That rarely happens. If it happens, we'll just have to make sure we communicate with the primary homeowner about this. The last one, Dryden Fiber will be responsible for damage from negligence of tree trimming and brush removal. We currently don't do any of that today. We might in the future. There's no brush or trees near our fiber where it will be. So we said that was okay too.
Okay, that was my question, is if we're absorbing liability for any tree trimming that NYSEG had to do.
I believe these stipulations are in the new easement between this homeowner and NYSEG.
Okay.
Yeah, they just want to have us match what they already have with NYSEG, which is not in our standard agreement as of today. So I believe
Do we need to vote on this?
you could pass a resolution to say that we authorize the amendment of this, a special amendment to the MDU property agreement for a single property known as anonymous property 001. That would give some level of like the town board approves of this. We can also say like, you've heard this, we're going to sign this agreement between the town supervisor signs the agreement anyway. You could authorize the supervisor to sign the agreement as it's been amended as a resolution. That's the other option.
I think that's what we'll do. Yeah, I'll move that. Bambi, did that make sense?
Yeah.
I'll move that.
Second.
Yes.
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 The last slide I wanted to cover was the goals for the year. We are well off of our goal of hitting about 1,000 houses this year. That's because of the change in the stoppage of almost all construction for the last 3 months. We still could do it. There's a lot of building that's going to happen. The exception of right now, it's been really nice weather the last few weeks, which means one of our goals is to hire a marketing support person to go door to door. I'm not going to send them out in a lightning storm, but when it is sunny this summer, go door to door, make sure that every one of the 1,800 homes that we can provide service to, well, 1,400 who haven't signed up yet, know that we have service. Put bear hangers on doors, talk to people, talk to apartment buildings. We already have quite a few multiple dwelling units like Congress or like Ithaca Estates where we can provide service. Just need to go to every single unit and say, hey, sign up, we have service for you. We think that's going to help drive the numbers so we could still land close to 1,000 by the end of the year.
Awesome.
The last thing is in the end of July, on Monday, July 28th. I spoke with the head of marketing outreach for Empire State Development for the Keitel office on Monday. And through talking about what our marketing plan is, they basically got them so far ahead of every other MIP project in terms of marketing. What we did with the parade, what we do with yard signs, what we've done on social media, as I said earlier, the letter and the tax bill, all these activities we've done, we're like, no one is doing anything like this. So I offered that on behalf of Dryden Fiber that I could just go through, here's what we've done so far, here's our plan. And they quickly ran that up the flagpole at Empire State Development and said, we definitely want you to do that. So it'll be just more visibility for Dryden Fiber at the state level, with Empire State, with the Connect All office. It'll be something that we can do to share what we've done and what we've had that's been successful and help the other 14 recipients. Also let them record it so that any future Connect All office projects can see what we're doing and follow what we've been doing.
You're sharing our marketing plan
Yes.
as a sort of best practices.
That's right. Some of like our assets, like here's the visuals, website, logo, social media, door to door, postcards, all the things that we've done.
Is that something that you work on, or are you able to delegate to like this marketing assistant?
It will be a collaboration, but mostly I'll be actually doing the training on July 28th.
That's awesome.
It'll be about a 30-minute training. I didn't say this because I haven't seen you, but when Josh Breitbart was here about a month ago, he was here. We spent about 6 hours together in Dryden and Caroline. The next day, we went to the Calyx conference up at Turning Stone, and definitely an ego boost having the director of Empire State Development's Connect All office, New York State's broadband initiative, say this. He said, what you're doing in Dryden and what you're doing personally is leading rural broadband in New York State, and we want to get you in front of as many people as we can. So, but like that's because you have done the work to build this. So where I showed up 16 months ago, we had a place to start with. Your leadership has helped put me in the spotlight for the project, but it's really what this town board has done over the last 5 years to get here.
What?
That's all.
No. I just had the crazy idea. Dave's executing it.
That's all I have. There's a public broadband committee meeting tomorrow morning at 10:30. And that's all I have. Questions?
Oh.
I might stay until it rains stops.
They hit us up to like also do Tioga County and 4 others.
We will finish the project to serve all Dryden residents and all Caroline residents as a priority. Beyond that, it's really up to the boards of the two towns and to make a decision about expansion.
Is there gonna be a way to break Dryden Fiber off from the town of Dryden budget pieces so that it makes not just Amanda's life easier, but it makes the budget planning easier?
Yes, I've been speaking with the town broadband attorneys as well as Supervisor Leifer and Deputy Supervisor Dan Lamb about converting the department within the town of Dryden to a local development corporation, an LDC, which is still basically a public entity, but is no longer a town project. We'll have our own budget. The current limitation on that is we are paying for the project through bands, bond anticipation notes. When the project construction is complete, that will roll into a single bond, which would be about a 15-year bond. The bond company that we work with does not believe that we can convert to a local development corporation and hold paper with 400 customers and being in business for 2 years.
Or we can do it.
Yeah, there is once you've been running 5 years, you have a track record of customers, paying customers, and that we know that the customer base will be able to pay back the bonds, then we would recommend spinning off to an LDC, but not before that. Once we spin off to an LDC, it makes the crossing of town lines, infrastructure in other towns a lot easier to manage. Because right now, we are prevented from building any infrastructure outside of the town of Dryden, or in Caroline's case, outside of the town of Caroline, with town of Dryden taxpayer dollars. We can't build a run up to the village of Groton or into Virgil with Dryden taxpayer dollars.
Right, but we also don't wanna mess up the grants. So after it's all done, then that would be more of an option.
Yeah, after the grant is done at the end of next year, after we finish Caroline at the end of next year, and hopefully all of the town of Dryden by the end of 2027. At that point, we will have serviced customers for over 5 years.
Yeah.
First customers came online in November of 2022. So by November 2027, we're 5 years in. We have by then projected over 2,000 customers paying every month, good cash flow. We can spit out to a local development corporation. Then expansion is possible then.
It's been our goal.
For the people in the town of Dryden and now the town of Caroline, the focus is still to reach every house in the town of Dryden. Hard to tell exactly when that will be for all of Dryden. There are some places that have service. We were not able to receive state funding to go and reach people who already have a provider. However, as a mission of this project, we will provide service to every single household in the town of Dryden. It's going to take a little bit longer for some of these than others.
Well, we can wait.
Same here.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, stop raining too. All right, and then and Pat says she loves Dryden Farmer. All right, so then there was another resolutions for the point. Alice.
Yeah, so Alice Green has been our acting rail trail task force chair since our former chair passed away last June. Beck, and she's done a fantastic job as acting chair. And it's the consensus of the task force that we should make her the chair, the formal chair, and that takes a vote of this board. So I don't think this is a controversial
It's great news.
suggestion, and she's doing great. And just most of you know this by now, but we've taken on a little bit of a different model where one person isn't having to manage so much, and we adopted a much more of a committee structure a year ago in July, once we realized that Bob's work was really hard to replicate, and it's been working very well.
Do your committees meet outside of the rail trail festival?
Yes.
You might need to pay attention to.
Yeah, we have a project management team that meets, and it's a subcommittee of the task force. As mostly volunteers, but often meet. You think we need to notice that?
I've had some trouble with something similar.
Okay. I'll do due diligence on that.
This is good news. The way you were leading up to it, I was afraid you were gonna say she was like gonna move to Florence, Italy or something, and we were losing her, so.
If we don't make her chair, she might just say the hell with you people. No, you know, Alice is not capable of saying anything like that.
She's
But
fantastic.
she's been doing a great job. So I move that we make her chair of the Rail Trail Task Force effective immediately.
A second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Cool. Okay. Right, then next up, we just to talk about the town attorney situation. So remember last week to Nate is maybe officially got the letter from Coughlin and Gerhart. Just saying that Nate's leaving their firm by June 30th. And so Nate's proposed to continue as our town attorney. When I spoke with him, he actually suggested that we also keep Coughlin Gerhart for certain things like the code enforcement litigation, and then obviously there's a different attorney working on that Article 78. I know that everybody.
With the fire department.
Yeah, for so I kind of propose that we take up Nate's suggestion, since he's been working the majority of everything we do, with the exception of the code enforcement suits, and then because he wasn't really the attorney going to do the hearings.
Yeah.
There was always somebody else. It's like Mike Parahenick and another one. And then I think his name's Nick.
Ortiz.
Yeah, he's been handling Article 78. So for those things, we would remain with Coughlin and everything else like the general advice we're asking for like resolutions and local laws and things, stick with Nate. And his, I don't know, was a little bit, I think the letter, it sits a little bit lower than Coughlin. Um. But I guess, probably gonna be his first, well, I know he's probably asked other municipalities just to stick with him too, um. But yeah, we'd be one of his first
Yeah,
ones.
we'll talk with him as well about this, and I think he really likes what we're doing. And he likes being involved in a town that has some sort of a vision and an agenda to do things, and he. I don't think he's just trying to flatter me. And we're doing things, but I think he is interested in working with us, not just for the job, but because of the things we're involved in, so.
Yeah,
I think we have a good dynamic. And I don't know, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think I like the idea of working with him continuing, and I like the fact that he's gonna give us a good rate.
Yeah.
Favorable rate.
yeah. I just like that it's pretty creative with things too. And
And he's earned our trust.
Huh?
He's earned our trust. and
Yeah.
That means something.
so, yeah, that's what I'd like to be able to say. Answer his, offer with a yes, and then let Coughlin know what we want to keep with them too. So I'll have to, just talk with Nate again about the specifics on the things to keep with Coughlin, but the letter I got from Coughlin just has an option for that too, so I just want to be able to.
Yeah, and we all have a copy of that, it's June 6th.
Yeah, the one from Coughlin, yeah.
So will he be helping the other Nate with the Article 78 stuff still, or? I just wanna make sure that doesn't get lost, cause that'd be nice to wrap it.
I don't, well, I mean. No, we would be working with that attorney, the one who was, Cortez, yeah,
Okay.
working with him directly on that one.
And then he would work with the other.
So for the other stuff, you were talking about with
Yeah, I don't know,
Stefanski,
it's like we were working with our Nate, with the attorney up in Syracuse, so the
Yeah.
other Nate wouldn't have a problem working with.
yeah,
Okay.
I think it's Nick.
Nick,
Nick.
yeah, it's
Nick
Nick,
Ortiz,
Nick
yes.
Ortiz, yeah. So,
Nick.
yeah, over that,
All right.
I think we just need permission to sign.
I move that we,
An agreement with Nate and maintain the one with Coughlin.
and is this a perpetual agreement, or is this a 1 year, or what do we do? It doesn't
So we
matter.
typically, I mean, we sign them. Usually year to year, because we have to appoint town attorney. At the
Organizational.
organizational meeting, yeah,
So
so.
this would be through the rest.
So we'll just do it through the rest of the year, and then we just, if
Right.
Nate's gonna, I wanna update it, come December, just to do a full year,
Okay,
we would do that.
all right, I move we allow Jason to sign that.
I'll second that.
Councilperson Bergman.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay, cool, thank you. Then I guess we're just up to the committee. And then, different committee reports and then citizens privilege.
And you want to hear the planning department report that you skipped over earlier?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about.
It's mostly things that we already did on the agenda, but I did want to say we've hired full-time and part-time code enforcement officer. So please stop by sometime to meet Braden Wolf and Matthew Brenneman.
All right. It's great.
That's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I guess affordable housing is kind of.
Well, it's already past the
Yeah.
action
Okay.
that we discussed it, so.
I'm up.
Yep.
So the two things to report out from our meeting this past month was one, support overall from the Conservation Committee on efforts for, that planning board may look into with clustered housing, trying to preserve open space and be more creative with how we use our land and future zoning. So that was very positive. The thing that came up was that there is word on the street that the street that,
Not on the trail.
no, it's not about the trail.
It's a safe.
Adjacent, so how's that?
It's a safe street, right?
It is. Oh, dear God, so
What's the word on the street?
that, we all know that the Dryden Lake Dam is nearing end of life. And that the DEC supposedly sent a letter saying that they would not have the funding to repair or replace it. And so that the town was gonna have to be responsible the tune of $4 million+ if we wanted to maintain it, but because the lake is so shallow, without the little dam, we'd probably have no lake. So that there is community concern out there about that.
I would stop that.
Okay, so there you go. So, the members of the committee were gonna attend, some of the members of the committee were gonna attend a webinar about grant applications, trying to start thinking about what could be done. From an environmental standpoint, there was, John explained that it wouldn't be like an environmental threat to not have the little dam there, but at the same time, as many people will tell you, we like the lake, and that there is a lot of biodiversity and birds and all sorts of other things in our community with the lake there. So I was asked to learn more about this.
There's a meeting.
We have a meeting.
We have a meeting with someone from DEC July 7th,
Okay,
and Craig Scott's gonna go to that too.
okay.
So I don't know where
Is that here?
that must be the word on the street.
No, I told you the word on the street. Yours is new word, July 7th.
Yeah,
Is it gonna be here?
yeah, it's gonna be here. It's with Scott Prindle, Rick's gonna be there,
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
There wouldn't be much of a park there without the lake.
Yeah.
I told you it was trail adjacent.
I mean, what, do they think we have the money? Well, that will be what we discuss.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
this is where maybe get in touch with Lee or.
Yeah.
And then,
That's a number item,
yeah. Maybe.
if there ever was one. Save Dryden Lake.
who's Lee?
Senators.
Yes, Lee Webb,
Leah.
Leah,
Okay. Oh, great. We'll work that out.
yeah.
Planning board, I know it says spring, but I think you didn't attend it. I attended in May, right?
We both have.
Were we
attended-
both there in
we-
May?
No, yeah. We took turns,
Right.
Special.
but then you guys had a meeting last week that was my understanding was the culmination of all of that because there was a vote to move forward with scope 1 hiring Nan, yada, 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 which basically covered the meeting I was at.
Yeah, so we have the regular meetings, which occurred at the end of May, and at that meeting, we discussed this storage project at 1400 Dryden Road at length, and that's why we really looked at all angles on this. I was concerned about visually what it would look like from the road, and I think we have some agreement to do better aesthetics on the fencing that's gonna go at the front of the complex, so it looks a little better. And the placement, I think he had originally proposed putting fencing right up near the road, and I asked him to move it back, and he was agreeable to that. There were questions about lighting, and he agreed to work with us on the lighting. So So these things aren't quite as ugly as they just inherently are.
That's good.
And then there was a lot of concern about the property line between the mobile home park next door. And we spent a lot of time talking about the property line and the fact that the number of the mobile homes are actually in the property that belongs to the storage facility. And we asked them to work with the mobile home park to make sure nobody was displaced, and that's gonna be a priority. And then as Spring just mentioned, we wrapped up the scoping of the zoning rewrite with our consultant, and that took a lot of time, but Nan Stolzenberg now knows exactly what the planning board expects in the zoning rewrite. That will come back to us for another round of.
For phase one.
We
For
are,
phase one.
yeah.
We have not moved on to phase
Oh,
two
no.
through 90 or whatever, however many there will be.
That's gonna be something we get to live with for years, but. And so, yeah, that's generally what's going on with planning.
Right, and then for an ag committee, cancel the June meeting. And then I think DRYC had mentioned in July, they're gonna wanna present. The that from the consultant about the property behind town hall.
So those,
In July. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
so those maps are going around, but is there action, do they get actionable?
I think so. I mean, it's the amount of then figuring out how to build it, the money part of it, but other than that, it lays out what's possible
Okay.
back there. But yeah, that's what they want to do in July.
I was,
And
we skipped over a couple committees here.
uh,
Did the climate smart committee meet?
Yeah, so since Alice Green is no longer our chair, we needed a new chair. We appointed Jack Wright as the chair, and then Evan Kurtz is the new vice chair. And then Marie McCray is spearheading a repair cafe. We're gonna have it at Dryden Fire Department October 4th between 10 and 2. That'd be cool.
What?
A repair cafe. It's where people can bring broken items and other people will volunteer to fix them.
Like a toaster.
Yeah.
Oh,
You have a
Fair
broken
Lakes for
toaster?
Use has a program like that going, so that may be a good collaboration.
Yeah, I have a toaster. I was gonna take it to the recycling center and.
There you go, now you can bring it to. the
Reuse
repair
the
cafe.
metal, but then we bought a new one. But for example.
Mhm.
Cool. Does everyone know what's going on with the bridge and the rail trail project, or do we need an update on that? The bids that we opened.
We had,
Yeah, the bids are still being analyzed. There's some potential for actually being able to accept the original bids. So we're still waiting for a final decision on that. And then if we're able to accept the original bids, great. If not, we'll go through a rebidding process.
what's the main problem?
Yeah, our consultant's doing really good work for us because as you know, the bid process was challenged by one of the bidders, and our consultant found a wrinkle. I won't go into too much details, but it's got DOT reconsidering what we do next, and I think either route will work to Dryden's advantage. We're not gonna be stuck with a really high project, high price project.
What about the Varna Bridge?
I wrote to DOT today about that. We're talking about the Freeze Road Bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're waiting for design approval from DOT, which means that our design effort can go forward, and then they do this historic analysis that's required pursuant to the design, this final project design approval. So it is so cumbersome. And you know,
as long as we have a bridge before we have flying cars, right?
Samson.
we're supposed to have prioritize by now. You know, according to Blade Runner.
I feel like we get really enthusiastic, we start feeling like we're gonna be able to go out to bed, and then it's like, damn
You know,
it's okay, it's.
I love our colleagues at DOT, but yeah, sometimes they make me think that this project's right around the corner, and then they sit on a decision for it.
In their defense, they're short-staffed. And they don't have enough funding either.
How do you know that?
Every state department is short staffed.
Thank you.
They'll make it. In any event, I try and wait 6 or 8 weeks before I bug them, but now it's just gonna be a monthly thing, and I wrote them again today, just trying to figure out why we haven't heard back. Our consultant's waiting to hear back.
If you wanna send me your letter, I can change the name and we'll just all take turns sending the same letter over and over again,
Once a week,
once a week.
Yeah,
that'll get you for a month.
Okay,
That might like, if we start just annoying the hell out of them, that if that is a tactic we wanna take.
for some reason, I think that won't work. I
Okay.
think they might just send us straight to their junk.
Okay, just checking, 'cause
File.
sometimes it works, sometimes it don't.
She's been pretty good, and she's been great working on the rail trail bridge, so I think she'll be responsive on this as well. I actually got to be in a Zoom session a few weeks ago. Got to see her face to face. And she was very helpful, so.
So on the brighter side though, things are, I thought I heard something good about the student design bridge that's gonna go over the washout area.
Yeah,
So that's moving forward.
so Cornell, I explained this at a.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
confirming that's still.
That's
looking
going forward,
good.
as is a phase 3 study of how to get from basically Pinckney Road to Freeville. And we did kind of commission that study last week in a meeting with our consultant, Erdman Anthony. And he'll be working on that in the next 4 weeks, and that's funded with a $10,000 grant from the Ithaca Conference Transportation Council, not with drawing money. So we're gonna have a study that shows us our options for getting from Pinckney to Freeville, because as you know, there's some property issues and easement acquisition issues that haven't been resolved. So we gotta look at, if we're not gonna get those, what is it going to cost us to go around those properties?
Yeah.
And what is the best use of our resources? So it's kind of exciting that we'll have a data informed decision to make at the end of July. So.
Okay.
Yes,
And
thanks
then
for.
can I be annoying and ask one more question? Since this. Since Mezzy and Elaine aren't here. Has anybody heard if there's gonna be cooling centers set up Monday, Tuesday? Cause I've heard Dryden schools have already closed due to heat concerns.
no, I haven't heard anything.
Okay, just curious. Sorry, Dan, thank you for letting me be annoying.
Well, one of the things, it's kind of a success coming out of TCOG, I'm the co-chair of TCOG right now and been pushing this EMS study. And we convinced the county legislature, and it wasn't too hard, but they saw the wisdom of funding this study for a transition for some county run ambulance service.
That's a fantastic.
And so they actually put it in their budget, and it's a big win to have that. I think if Mike were here, he might, or Greg, they might be sharing that, but they actually put that into the budget. So they are working with this consultant that we recommended.
That's huge news.
So you might have
Fantastic.
met at the AOT convention we had back in February, Paul Bishop. So
Oh.
I had urged them to work with Paul. Paul came down, gave a presentation. And he sealed the deal with the county legislators and they hired him. So it's kind of a cool thing.
We also received the email about the West Dryden Road speed zone change.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that was exciting.
And so.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Yep.
shared it on Facebook.
Yep. And I know there's for citizens privilege, Pat Prana wanted to. Pat, did you still wanna Pat, are you there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Did you still wanna address the board about the
Yeah, since there's not a lot of people here and I just want to introduce myself to the board. We're having an issue with a neighbor who has moved into our NR district on Deerhaven Drive, which is neighborhood residential, and he's trying to establish a farm, brought in a bunch of livestock. It's ruined the tranquility of our small neighborhood, and I've got various people. I met with Jason today, and we have Shelley was doing a great job, Knickerbocker, before she left, but Dave Sprout is now working on the zoning because the farmer has encroached on my property, which has been fixed, but also encroaching on town property. And Rick Young is now working with him to resolve some of those things. But the farm is not a farm. Just because there's livestock on it doesn't make it a farm. And there's a lot of garbage and trash, and it's quite disgusting. But regardless, today Jason and I found some things online, and I'm going to share my screen. Oh, could somebody allow me to share my screen? If you don't mind. Let's see, I can do that again. There we go. I'll do an entire screen.
We'll share it now.
Choose built-in display. I don't know what that means. I don't know if you could. I'm sharing. I don't know what. I was hoping to share a document. Well, let me see if I could try. So this neighbor is hiding behind right to farm in Dryden. But if you look at some of the documentation out there, so can you see this document?
Yep.
Okay, so New York's right to farm summary. It's not very long. I'm not going to read it all through, but Jason and I found this today, and it's actually put in place from a bunch of New York ag and marketing ordinances to protect farmers from people like neighbors that bring nuisance suits. So they're trying to define what a sound agricultural operation is. And when you get down to, sorry, I went a little too far. When you get down to the conditions and activities, it basically hones in on, a sound practice, and that it's a sound practice as long as the operation encompasses at least 7 acres and grosses 10,000 in sales. If that's what it really is, our little neighborhood, our neighbor only has 4 acres. He can't, you just can't bring in livestock into a non-residential area, in my opinion. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of laws on the books for Dryden. And so I've taken upon myself to look through the various ordinances, and I'm willing to work with the planning board to come up with some reasonable definitions to beef up, if you will, what does it mean to be a farm? That's kind of missing. We have farm operations, but we don't really say what a farm is. And I've used the town of Ithaca definitions to augment these in Dryden. But basically there is an issue in that, we have quiet neighborhoods, should not be overrun by a neighbor who wants to engage in livestock and just shows up with animals, puts up fences, and there's a whole bunch of stuff comes with farming. And we love farmers, but we're in this tiny non-residential area. Why would that be allowed?
Can we clarify that hi Pat, you mentioned non-residential.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's neighborhood residential, NR.
Even that, it's a rural resident.
It is not rural. So if you look at the map, Dryden makes a distinction between rural agricultural and rural residential versus neighborhood residential. So there's purple throughout here where I believe the lots are not really big enough to sustain a farm, if you will, especially if you need enough land for a horse or a pig or you know, some other kind of livestock. However, we, you know, right to farm, especially when the egg prices went through the roof. Hey, if you want a little chicken coop set up, you know, we're willing to accept that in a residential neighborhood, the NR. So I kind of look through the laws and the, like I said, ordinances in the other town of Ithaca, as well as that right to farm law. And, you know, if we could, and this is just a draft, I will share this with Ray in an email and copy Jason, and you can share it with everyone in the board. Again, this is just taking some notes, but basically, if you are a farm, you know, it seems like you need to be 7 acres is kind of what that right to farm is. That
So-
would be negotiable, you know. But, you know, you can have keeping of chickens, and the town of Ithaca has all these rules. You can't have more than 6, no roosters, because you are only within a couple of acres of your neighbors. You need to be neighborly.
So just out of curiosity, and I'm smiling because I live very close to someone who's got pet cows. Are your problems, is it smell? Is it aesthetics? Is it noise? Are you concerned about animal welfare? What kind of problems are you?
All of the above. Animal welfare for sure. I don't believe these animals are being treated very well. We've had to call animal control multiple times because the pig was being attacked by their dogs. They're not keeping their dogs very well. There's garbage everywhere. It just looks unsafe to even be on that property. And there's also children there, but I have no connection to the family to bring anything against them with regards to their children. But we have rodents that we're dealing with because there's a farm next door, because I don't know if they're keeping their chicken feed in rodent-proof containers. When Dave Sprout walked around this past week, he said there's lots of chicken poop everywhere, you know. So there is animal welfare, the smell, and neglect. Oh, yeah. And the noise, and definitely odors. Yes, odors. And the rooster, yeah, roosters are a huge nuisance. They crow quite a bit. Now, the property owner did tell Dave they were going to get rid of the rooster, but you know, again, if you have no roosters, that's clear, no roosters. And so again, I'm just putting some notes down and talking to Jason for the first time today. I'll share this in an email for Ray, and I'd be willing to work with Ray and the board on how to put in the right language so that we can get these definitions inserted into our ordinances to prevent these bad actors from coming in to residential neighborhoods. They don't belong there. And if anyone wants to come visit this property, you're more than welcome to drive to the end of Deer Haven Drive and see what a fiasco is at the end of that driveway or end of that road.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you for letting me speak. Appreciate it. And Jason has my email if anyone wants to email me and ask me any questions.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right. I didn't have anything else. So, does anybody got anything else they got?
No, that's it.
Okay. Okay, let's move to adjourn.
Second.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.